Alright, we'll start with the first page of Unit 10. So the name of this unit is Law of Sine and Cosine, but today's topic is basically just something that you already know, right triangle trigonometry. So you probably remember this from your geometry days. Basically, a lot of it is SOHCAHTOA and some of the other stuff. Pythagorean theorem, SOHCAHTOA, because remember, things like SOHCAHTOA and Pythagorean theorem is applied to only to right triangle, and that's what we're going to be looking at. We're going to skip the first section. Co-function identities is not something we're doing, and so let us start with some of the problems. Problem 2 and problem 3 as well as 4, they're all co-functional, so we'll skip all of that. So let's start with problem number 1, that will be applicable. Okay, let me zoom in a little more so we can have a little slightly bigger screen. Okay, that should be good. Alright. So it says, let's read the first problem. Find the exact value of the 6 trig functions. When we say 6 trig functions, we're talking about sine, cosine, tan, and cosecant, secant, and cotangent of the angle theta in the following figure. What do we notice? We notice it is a right angle triangle. What else do we notice? That this angle is the theta, and we have been given 2 sides. One side is the hypotenuse. This is my hypotenuse. And with respect to theta, this is the opposite side. So whenever you have a right angle triangle and you're trying to work with it, go ahead and mark the sides as whatever, opposite, hypotenuse, adjacent, depending on which angle is theta. So the side that's missing is the adjacent side. And that's my missing side, and that's what I'm going to calculate, because for me to write all the 6 trig functions, I need to know all the 3 sides. So how do you find a missing side in a right triangle given 2 sides? You will just use Pythagorean theorem. So it's going to be a square, which is 3 square, plus b square, which is my unknown, equals 4 square. And go ahead and solve this. So b squared equals 4 square minus 3 square, so 16 minus 9, that is 7. Therefore, b is going to be square root of 7. So this is what I just found. Yeah. Now we're ready to write. Now that we have all the 3 sides, we should be able to write our trig functions. So sine theta. What do we know about sine theta? So opposite by hypotenuse. Therefore, it is 3 over 4. Cosine theta is adjacent by hypotenuse. Therefore, it is square root of 7 over 4. Let's do cosecant theta. Cosecant theta, there are 2 ways to look at it. One is you can just take this and flip it, which works fine. So this one I'll go ahead and do that, 4 over 3. But for secant theta, if I take this and flip it, what happens is, okay, I can do that. Another way to look at it also, you can also flip the ratio, hypotenuse over adjacent, but it's going to be the same thing. So it's 4 over square root of 7, but remember you need to rationalize the denominator, so it's square root of 7 over square root of 7, which gives me 4 square root of 7 over 7. That's my secant theta. And then tan theta equals opposite by adjacent. There's not enough space, so I'm just going to write the same thing. So it's opposite by adjacent, so 3 square root of 7, 3 over square root of 7, you want to rationalize it, and you should get this. And cotangent theta, instead of trying to flip this, instead of trying to write the reciprocal of this, where square root of 7 will become the denominator, and then you have to again rationalize it, it may be easier just to do adjacent over opposite. Because in that, what happens is, because the opposite side does not contain a radical, only the adjacent side. So I can straight away write square root of 7 over 3, and I will not have any rationalizing to do. So sometimes you have to decide, should I take this and flip it, or should I flip the ratio? Therefore, I will not have a radical in my denominator. Alright, I hope this was clear, and I'm going to go to problem number 5. So it says, solve the following triangle given the following information. Whenever you're told to solve, so you have to keep this in mind. You're going to see this. Whenever you're told to solve, what does solving a triangle mean? Obviously, we know what solving an equation is. It's finding a variable that's there. But solving the triangle always means find all the missing sides and angles. That's what it means basically. So let's see what they've given to us. They have given us a side A is a side A, so that's 7. Beta equals 50 degrees, so that's my 50 degrees. I know this is 90 degrees. Find B, find C, and find alpha. The easiest thing to do is to find the alpha. Does everybody agree with me? Because in a right angle triangle, if you know the two angles, you can find the third angle. So angle alpha is 180 degrees minus 90 plus 50, which is going to be 40 degrees. Okay, that one is straightforward. Now what do you have? Now I have one. Now I have to find the two sides. B and C are sides. The thing is, I can't use Pythagorean theorem because Pythagorean theorem needs two sides. If you're given only one side, how are you going to find the other two sides? So here you can use your trigonometry. So Katova. So basically, if you're given one side and you also have an angle, that is enough information for you to use your different trig functions. So let's say you want to use B. Let's say you want to find B. So what is B with respect to the angle that you're going to be using? This is going to be opposite, this is going to be adjacent, and this is going to be hypotenuse. But right now you're going to be finding the opposite side and you're using the adjacent side. Which one uses opposite and adjacent? That is going to be tan. So your equation is going to be tan 50 degrees equals opposite by adjacent. You see what we did? I couldn't use Pythagorean theorem, so you use trig. So for yours to use trig, Sokatova, you need to figure out which two sides am I going to be working with and which angle I'm going to be working with. You need at least two of those three things. So this is the side that I'm trying to find. This is the given, and then I use this. So that gives me B equals to. So now you can use your calculator. So basically B equals to 7 multiplied by tan 50 degrees. And using your calculator, you should get 8.342. And then how do you find C? With respect to angle, C is the hypotenuse. And you'll again use the adjacent side. Which one uses hypotenuse and adjacent? It's going to be cosine. So cosine of 50 degrees equals, remember cosine is ka, adjacent over hypotenuse. We all know how to get C by itself. You can cross multiply. It's a two-step process. I want you to try to do this by yourself. And C equals 10.891. Everybody okay how you get C? Basically, I'm so sorry. I should have moved the paper. Let's see. So basically you'll cross multiply. So C times cosine 50 equals to 7, and then divide both sides by 7, and you should get this C. Alright, going on to the next page. Okay, so now we're looking at few other things. One of them is angle of elevation. Okay, so a lot of these trigonometric things a lot of them are word problems because a lot of situations in real life are right angle situations, and you're trying to find a missing angle or a missing side in that right angle triangle. So you will have word problems to find those missing sides and angles. In those word problems, you will see the angles being described as angle of elevation and angle of depression. The way you want to look at it is, let me just explain the diagram and then we'll write this down. If this is a horizontal line, from a horizontal line, if you're looking up, that becomes your angle of elevation. I'm calling that E. And so it's like you're standing on the ground and you're looking up to the top of the building. Let's say this is a building. So you're looking up. When you're looking up, the angle that's being formed is the angle of elevation. And again, you're standing on the ground and you're looking down. You're looking down, and that becomes the angle of depression. All right. So whatever I explain, I'm just going to write this down. Above the horizontal line, and this is angle of depression is below. And then when you see these, the two words, angle of elevation and angle of depression in a word problems, we will go through with it. Okay. Let's go ahead and do these problems. We'll start with 6. So none of them have a diagram. That means you should draw the diagram. The first one says the hypotenuse of a right triangle is 3 feet. So let's go and draw that right triangle. It says the hypotenuse of a right triangle is 3 feet. I'm going to go ahead and mark it. If one leg is 1 feet, these are my two legs. It says one of them is 1 feet. Find the degree of measure for each one of them. So basically what they're asking us to do is they're asking us to find the two angles. Let's call this angle alpha. Let's call this angle beta. Okay, so they're not asking us to find the missing side. If they had asked us to find the missing side, I would have used Pythagorean theorem. Because a square plus b square equals c square. But that's not what they want. They want to know the angle. Okay, so let's start with alpha. If I need to find alpha, I will use the two sides that are given to me. With respect to alpha, this is going to be the adjacent side, right, because it's next to it. And with respect to alpha, not with respect to alpha, this is always going to be the hypotenuse. Doesn't matter which of the two angles you choose. This is always going to be the hypotenuse. So which one of my three trig function uses adjacent and hypotenuse? Cosine. So cosine of alpha equals adjacent by hypotenuse. And you guys remember how to get the cosine? Remember what your goal is. Your goal is to get alpha by itself. So how do you get this alpha by itself? You want to separate the cosine from this one, move it to this side, so it becomes cosine inverse. Cosine inverse of 1 over 3 equals to alpha. Alpha, or rather I should have written it the other way around. Alpha equals cosine inverse. Yeah, you get that? That is equal to the alpha. So you're going to put that in your calculator. I hope everybody knows how to find cosine inverse. Cosine inverse is just above cosine. We've done that in the other units. Put this in your calculator, and alpha equals 70.529. We generally try to round it to 3 zeros. And then now it's easy for me to find beta. I don't have to do anything for beta except anytime you know two angles of a triangle, you can find the third by subtracting from 180. 180 minus 90 plus 70.529, and that should give you 19.471 degrees. So this is your alpha and this is your beta. Okay, I'm going to keep going. We're going to finish this page on this particular recording, and then we'll go to the next one. A right triangle has an hypotenuse of 10 centimeters. If one of the angle is 40 degrees, find the length of each leg. So let's call the leg A and B. Again, I don't have two sides for me to use Pythagorean theorem, so I'll have to use trig. So if I'm trying to find A first, A is with respect to this angle, A is opposite side, and I have to use this because this is given to me. This is hypotenuse. So I will use opposite and hypotenuse as sine. So sine of 40 degrees equals opposite by hypotenuse. So A over 10. Try to get A by itself. You should get A equals 6.428 centimeters. A is basically 10 multiplied by sine 40. Everybody okay? And then for me to find B, basically I'll still use the hypotenuse, but B is basically the adjacent side. It's the adjacent side and hypotenuse side. So basically same thing. Adjacent over hypotenuse is cosine. So cosine of 40 degrees equals B over 10. Right? Adjacent over hypotenuse. Therefore B equals 7.66 centimeters. Please make sure you write the unit of measurement if the question has it. The question has this as 10 centimeters. So if the question has it, your answer should also have the unit of measurement. Okay, I'm going to so question number 8, let's go ahead and do it. Another reason I want to do it is because it has the angle of elevation. So let's talk about a ship offshore from a vertical cliff. The minute I see a vertical cliff, I'm going to draw the vertical cliff. This is my vertical cliff. And it says a vertical cliff known to be 100 feet in height. So I know so I know this is 100 feet. It takes a sighting of the top of the cliff. So a ship offshore. So they say that there's a ship here. How do you draw a ship? Something like this. From this ship, you're looking up. So because there is an angle of elevation is 25 degrees. So from this point, you're looking up And this angle, so remember, angle of elevation from the down you look up, it's 25 degrees. How far is this one? So this is the distance that I'm trying to find. How far is this distance? How far ashore is the ship from the cliff? So the cliff is ashore. So this is, the ship is obviously in the water. How far is it? So what will you do? You basically will use, you have the opposite side. Adjacent side is what you're trying to find. You're doing nothing with the hypotenuse, so you don't have to worry. Opposite adjacent is tan. So tan of 25 degrees equals opposite by adjacent. Please get d by itself, and you should get d equals 214.451 feet. All right. I'm not spending too much time trying to solve, because this is, just algebra 1, trying to get the variable by itself. You will cross multiply or do whatever you need to do to get that d by itself. Put it in the calculator, you should get that. Okay, I'm going to do this. My main focus is to maybe make sure that I draw the diagram so that you understand it, and then the solving part I'm going to spend less time. I think you can solve for it yourself. A guy wire 80 feet long is attached to the top of the radio transmission. So whenever they talk about the guy wire, a wire is always the slant height. It's always a slant height. So there's a radio transmission tower. Any towers, cliffs, all of them are always going to be straight, 90 degrees with the floor. I should have put a 90 degree here also. It was wrong not to do that. So this is the transmission tower. Yeah, and it says it makes 25 degrees. Guy wire is 80 feet long, so this is my 80 feet long. It's attached, and it says the guy wire makes an angle 25 degrees with the ground. Because this is the guy wire and this is the ground, so that is going to be 25 degrees. And what are they asking us to find? Again, the height. So right now I have opposite. I have been given the hypotenuse. Opposite hypotenuse is sine, so sine 25 degrees equals opposite by hypotenuse. So please get x by itself, and you should get x equals 33.809 feet. Alright, so at this point we will stop, and we will start the next page in the next recording.